War of the Realms, New Agents of Atlas is heating up again.
Miracleman #1 is officially middle-aged. Why is it still a must-have for collectors?
And we'll hit that nostalgia button hard once more when we take a look back at Starlog Photo Guidebooks.
Ah,
All this and more on a new episode of Bronze and Modern Gods. Richard, how when you saw Starlog Photo Guidebooks, what happened when you saw that in the notes?
I was taken back. It was like a time machine. It is hilarious. I used to love Starlog magazine. It was the one magazine every month I would go and pick up. Great magazine. Miss it. Really miss it.
If you have no idea what we're talking about, dear viewer or listener, stand by. We'll get to it this episode. But first, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods. You guys, the algorithm's hitting you. New members, new subscribers. We love each and every one of you. Please hit like if you haven't subscribed yet. It really helps us out. We are growing nicely, and it's really pleasant to see. And we're going to move on to our hot book of the week. Richard, 2025 is deja vu all over again.
Seriously. War of the Realms, New Agents of Atlas #1. This is a 2019 book. John and I spec'd hard on back in the day.
How many times has this been hot book of the week for us now?
Yeah, it's Marvel's first all-Asian superhero team, written by Greg Pak. Great story, great writer. Features a diverse cast of characters from across the Marvel universe.
Including Amadeus Cho, you got Silk in there, you got Shang-Chi. First appearances of Wave and Arrow in this book, I believe. Also, it's trending again. I think this is the at least third time we've had this as a hot book of the week, because Luna Snow has been featured in that pesky, awesome Marvel Rivals video game that you play.
Yeah. Yep, she is a integral healer. She's one of the best healers in the game, and it's getting a lot of exposure because of it.
Marvel Rivals I love the fact that a non-movie property is driving new readers and new collectors. I'm all for it. Whatever it takes. Raws of this are selling on eBay for around $20 again. This has been a roller coaster ride of a book. Just off the top of your head, what was the highest it was selling in 9.8 at one point?
Oh boy. Remember there's multiple variants of this, and some of the higher ratio variants were going for hundreds of dollars.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And now I think it's a reasonable amount of money. Great time to pick it up. It is a good story.
We had a little bit of a live sell on Instagram on Saturday night here, and I brought out the Iron Fist #1 with the new Iron Fist that came out a few years ago because of Marvel Rivals. I've been sitting on them. Whoop, gone. They're all went. Marvel Rivals is driving stuff, which is, great if you were like Richard and I and you bought a whole bunch of stuff at cover price when it came out.
And it's going to be the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, they start off with 31 heroes, and they have seasons. So much time passes, a new season comes out, and new characters come out. This newest season was Reed Richards and Sue Richards came out, and I'm sure we're going to see the Thing and Johnny in future seasons. But so they'll continually add new characters. So I'm expecting to see Daredevil. I'm expecting to see Miles Morales. All these characters are going to be added to this game and get a new lease on life.
I'm going to be the old man here because I honestly don't know. Is this a console only game? Is this a PC game? Is it mobile? What is it?
It runs on console, both PS5 and Xbox. My daughter plays on PS5. Our friend Evan has played on Xbox, and it also is a PC game. I play exclusively PC because
Okay.
it's easier for me to. I'm a mouse and keyboard kind of guy. But yeah, no, it's got it's a great game. Because it's free.
Mhm.
You can literally download it and start playing. They make their money through non-offensive microtransactions, basically skins that you can buy. Some of the skins are pretty notorious. At this.
Alice.
But it's a great game to introduce characters to. Evan plays with his son. His son is
Mhm.
a big fan, and his son is a big fan of Marvel Rivals and has learned a lot of characters that his dad really likes, and it's a great kind of talking point to bring people into the hobby.
That's how your daughter found out about Malice and asked you about Malice, which I'm sure was a very not uncomfortable conversation at all.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's just a number of other characters that she's asked me about. Um, it's just amazing because she's not a comic book person.
Right.
She's an iffy Marvel person,
Mhm.
but she loves the game. She loves playing the game, and I have to admit, it is a lot of fun. I wish I had the time to play it more often.
Yeah. Well, speaking of introductions, make sure that you come and introduce yourselves to Richard and I this weekend. It's finally here. Cal Comic Con, February 1 and 2 at the Anaheim Hilton in Anaheim, California. Special guests, including Richard. Go, go.
Jim Starlin, Don Simpson, Howard Chaykin, and Mark Teixeira.
Ah, Teixeira. It was your last
Yeah.
time to get it right.
You know what, that X always gets me.
Plus, here's why you're coming, okay? Tons of excellent comic book dealers and collectors, 100% comics focused this show. You hear Richard and I babble about this show all year long. It is now finally here. Richard's getting on a plane. We're going to be there Saturday and Sunday. You want to be there too. Go to calcomiccon.com right now, this minute. More information and tickets, or hit this QR code with your camera on your phone and get all the info you need. Yeah, do it. We'll see you.
I've been hoarding money for this show for the past couple of months. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm ready too. Before we get into show and tell, a little update on what we discussed last week with Neil Gaiman. Dark Horse tweeted this out on Friday. Dark Horse takes seriously the allegations against Neil Gaiman, and we are no longer publishing his works, confirming that the Nancy Boys comic series and collected volume have been canceled. So Dark Horse, the first one out of the gate to draw a line in the sand, I suppose.
Yeah, but I still think this is unfair. It's just allegations at this point. There's been no proven um, crime. It smells fishy. I'll give you that, absolutely. But I don't want to have someone's career ruined over allegations. So I think this is a little early. It just seems to be the trend for people to jump on the bandwagon of uh, damning these people before they have their day in court, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, we haven't seen Netflix or DC make any moves. I just found it was really interesting that Dark Horse uh, put that statement out. It got picked up by Variety and the Hollywood Reporter. I mean, it got some traction. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Well,
it's Neil Gaiman. He affects the not only the comic book industry, but movies, television, media in general. His stories are renowned. And all of a sudden we've got this, you know, dark shadow, overcoming them all.
don't bring Dark Shadows into this. All right, show and tell.
Sure.
We talked about Alpha Flight number 6. It was last week or the week before, the infamous Snowbird issue where lots of white space by John Byrne. Some pages were actually just blank pages as they fought in a snowstorm. And it reminded me of Fantastic Four 276.
Yep.
Do you remember this cover?
Yes, I do.
Well, yeah, if you got a theme, you got a technique, why not stick with it? I will give him credit. There's a little more happening on this cover. uh all all shadows, but I kind of like this.
Yep. Yep. It's unique. I mean, how many other covers do you see take that monochromatic kind of thing going?
Right, and just no chances being taken like that these days from Marvel.
No.
What's going on, Marvel? All right, what do you have?
Everybody's risk adverse nowadays.
Yeah, of course.
I okay. I went a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about today is from viewer suggestions.
Oh,
So, um, let's start off with a comic that was suggested during the live show by Kmart and some other people too, but Kmart's someone who really was pushing it. This is Red Coat.
oh, look at you.
Yeah. I went down. This book was hard to find. This is a fourth print. If you look here, it says right there. Um, and it was the only copy left at Carolyn Johns, which is where I'm calling my adoptive LCS at this point. It's a great read. I really have enjoyed it. It's not what I expected. It is still the character, man out of time, traveling through time, blah blah blah. But it's told in an interesting way. The main character is definitely an anti-hero.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, you love him, you hate him. He's not a hero. Let's just put it that way. And so far I'm enjoying it, and I think Image has a hit on their hands because, like I said, it's hard to come by, and it's on its fourth print for an Image comic, which I think is pretty indicative of how successful it's been.
You gonna try issue 2 now and go
Yeah.
forward? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I'm trying to track it down. They didn't have it at Carolyn Johns.
I better read it in case I run into Jeff Johns at the cafeteria somewhere and he asks me about it. Long-time listeners of the show know that story. It's embarrassing. Um, Nothing special about this book except for the cover. I think it should be up there with the iconic Frank Bruner covers and things like that. It is Doctor Strange 49.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
Marshall Rogers. I haven't shown this before, have I?
No, I don't remember seeing it.
It's very, very cool. Roger Stern and Marshall Rogers had a really far too short run on Doctor Strange in the 80s. It's up there with just the classic Doctor Strange runs. And I just think this cover should be appreciated a lot more than it is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a great cover.
Whoop. It kind of looks like the Marvel Treasury Edition cover from the 70s by Frank Brunner. What do you got next?
All right, here's a book. We talked about this series before, but this is an update to it. This is the Marvel Universe Update 89. Now, the problem with the Marvel Universe, for those who didn't live through it, is you see it says the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, and what it basically is, it's an encyclopedia of, for those who are too young to know what encyclopedias are. Basically, it's a Wikipedia that's printed.
By the way, I'm wincing along with everyone else watching you open that back. Go on.
This was not a special book.
Okay.
It's in great shape though. I bought this at Carolyn Johns.
By the way, oh, D-Man.
Yeah. And they have in it, they call out a hero or a villain and they give his backstory, they give their powers, the origins, things like that. It's actually a great way for people like Comet Man, who actually remembers Comet Man. Well, here you can read up on Comet Man and find out his real name is Dr. Stephen Beckley.
Created by Bill Mumy from Lost in Space.
Oh, was he really? I didn't know that.
And Miguel Ferrer from Twin Peaks.
And so this is an update book, meaning the original book came out, being that it's on paper, unlike here's D-Man.
By the way, D-Man gets 2 pages, as it should be. Good for you, Dennis Dunphy.
Yeah, so it's just an update to the encyclopedia, and it was a great reference. I remember when these came out. I waited for each one and I read it cover to cover. DC did something very, very similar to this in catalog their heroes and villains. And DC's, if I remember correctly, DC's had the hole punch so that you can put it in a binder. So,
and also Marvel did the edition after this were hole punched as well with binders,
which is a great idea.
Yeah, DC did it first, I think, with their second series.
But yeah, great book, great snapshot in time as these Marvel universes are. I don't believe they did another update, did they? After this update 89?
They redid the whole thing again in those 3 hole punch binder versions. Okay. So everything got updated then, which by the way, I had a full run and I had them all in the binders and I got rid of all of them. They just took up a lot of space. And I wish a lot of stuff I wish I kept. Again, I've talked about this before, but this was one of the first 2 books I ever got a subscription to, and it's Captain Marvel number 48. This is the second issue I got in the mail It was bi-monthly, so I had to wait 2 months. You know how long 2 months is to a kid?
To
Yeah.
me, it's still a
Yeah.
lot.
And I thought, "Oh, this is so cool." It's, the cheetah's pretty cool, even though, this guy has no chance defeating Captain Marvel in any way, shape, or form. I believe that the Human Torch is a guest star in this as well. You've got, Al Milgrom, inked by Terry Austin. It's just great stuff for a kid, and Captain Marvel, and Howard the Duck was the other book I got a subscription to at the same time. Just 2 titles I was always fascinated with as a kid that I could never find on the newsstand, so I thought, "All right, I'll just have it mailed to my house for Christmas. I'll
So
ask for subscriptions for Christmas."
so that's why you didn't get, Captain America, because you could find it on the newsstand?
No problem finding Captain America at Drug Mart or Lawson's or wherever I was. Could never find Captain Marvel, could never find Howard the Duck. Never saw DC Dollar Comics until years after they were released.
Mhm.
No one near us
Yeah.
carried those things on the rack. Yeah, crazy. What else you got?
Last one is, simply Magic #1. We talked about characters that are a part of Marvel Rivals. Well, Magic is a character in Marvel Rivals. This is an interesting kind of elsewhere style story where, um, Ileana gets trapped. I'm trying to remember the specifics. Anyway, she gets trapped in this alternate universe where the X-Men, or you see Storm and Shadowcat and, Kurt. What's Kurt's,
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler. Well, they're either evil versions of those characters, and she's trapped in basically hell and she manages to escape. And when she escapes, she's much older than when she entered. She was a little girl there. She comes out as a teen, and it's kind of a good origin story for her. You see, it says Storm and Ileana. Storm kind of is her mentor through this whole thing, and you get to see Storm not as the superhero, but more as of a magician. She's more magic oriented than she is than a mutant in this particular storyline. But ran 4 issues, and at the end of it, like I said, Ileana comes out as Magic, and has that giant sword that she's carrying around through Marvel Rivals as well.
You have to believe she is magic. Um, by the way, hold that up.
Mhm.
The guy is Belasco, who
That's right, right.
first appeared in Kazar of all books.
Okay.
So if you're X-Men obsessive and you want to get all the first appearance of all the X-Men related baddies, you got to go into the Kazar section of your comic shop. The one that's really full.
I'd like Shadow Cat's outfit in here. That's too. I thought it
Yeah,
was
I
cool.
bet you do. Hey, this is what you came here for. You want more of it? Support the show. Become a member here on YouTube. $2.99 a month. All you have to do is click that join button right here next to the subscribe button. You get extra Wednesday show and tell episodes, Thursday live streams where you can join us and show off your collections as well. We are booked for the next month, Richard. We have
That's great. I
I
always
put
have fun
I
seeing
put
what
out the
people bring.
call and
Mhm.
people replied.
Awesome.
And here's some of those people right now. There's their names. Look at them, scrolly. And Richard and I will go to more shows with this money and provide more coverage in 2025. For example, Richard's coming here for Cal Comic Con. I am going to the Elite_Comics 11 convention in New York, and you guys make it possible. So if you're listening on a podcast platform, just hit that link in the description as we move on to viewer mail.
You've got
Richard.
mail.
Well, we were talking about Neil earlier. Who's our
Yeah.
first?
My first piece is from Star Trek Stu, and Stu says, with Neil Gaiman, unfortunately, canceling someone has other consequences.
Mm,
Should all the people who have been connected with Gaiman's projects lose their present and future income? It is a difficult issue to solve. That's
mm.
very true. I mean, the Anazi series, um, the Sandman TV show, there is a whole cast that relies on his property. Do they have to suffer now because of the fallout from this story? It's tough. It's tough. Do they deserve it? Of course not. Of course not. They did not sign up for any of the things that have come out, but they're caught up in it, and unfortunately, they're suffering.
What about the artists that worked with him on Sandman that were getting royalties, like Dringenberg, Sam Keith, those people? I don't know how much royalty flow was still happening this late. I would imagine the amount never changes. It's just based on the number of books sold per year, and if that gets shut off, boy, that's gonna be a heartbreaker. Because gosh, that book was 30 years ago now, 40 years ago almost.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that funny? It's
There
funny how
no easy answers here. So let's move on from our email at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com. Dodge. From Jay Wilson. Hey, I enjoy your videos and discussions. Thank you. So, can anyone explain to me Heroes Reborn, Heroes Return era Marvel Comics? This era contains some of the worst covers, Avengers 1, Captain America #1, the most incomprehensible stories, and the worst everything. What happened? Why did it happen? Please help me understand. Oh, Jay, are you new here? I ask Jay because I commonly say that Captain America #1 from 1996 by Rob Liefeld is the first comic book I ever ripped up and threw away after I bought it. And I stopped buying Captain America, which I'd been buying faithfully since I was 5 years old at that point. Heroes Reborn happened because sales were so bad in the comic crash of the mid 90s that the owners of Marvel said, okay, basically, we have no faith in Marvel editorial anymore. You guys have had every opportunity to make these books sell. They're just going down, down, down. We're going to go and outsource the creative with the hottest creators in the industry. And it was going to be McFarlane, and it was going to be Jim Lee, and it was going to be Rob Liefeld. McFarlane told them to go stuff themselves. Rightly so, I think. And Lee and Liefeld took it on. And so they gave those titles. It was a 1-year contract, a 1-year experiment to see if they could revitalize them, and that they did for the first issues. However, every succeeding issue after that plummeted in sales, especially Captain America and Avengers, to the point where Liefeld was dismissed after 6 issues of each of those. And Jim Lee's team had to finish up those runs. And at the end of the year, Marvel said, thank you for your service, and summarily discharged the Image duo, or Jim Lee's team, who was the only ones that were left, and gave the books back to Marvel Editorial, who then did Heroes Reborn. How's that, Richard?
I was out before this happened. So, and I am glad. I am so glad, because to picture you flipping to the last page of Captain America #1 and then being so angry at
I
it.
didn't make it to the last page.
Oh, you didn't? Just to imagine you ripping a comic up. I've seen you take trash comics and actually press them just because you didn't want them
I
to
feel bad. It's like a poor little comic book.
So it must have been. I have not read it just to save myself.
Horrible. Now, Rob Liefeld likes to say, rightly so, and it's also a point that we should remember and consider. His issues of Captain America and Avengers were the best-selling issues of those books in their history. Now, I'm talking Captain America since the 60s. I'm not talking Golden Age Captain America. His Avengers #1 is the single best-selling issue of Avengers ever. Still to this day in 2025, even with movies and everything else. So there are fans out there. Now, do they like pretty pictures and pinups? Sure. They can't have liked the story. Guys, in the comments, tell me if I'm wrong. If you want to defend those books, go for it. But I do think the Kurt Busiek, George Perez Avengers we got in return much better. The Mark Waid, Ron Garney Captain America we got back in Heroes Return was, oh my God, thank God. It got me back into comics again because I was out. I sold everything. That was
Mhm.
the first purge. I was so mad. I purged. I was like, they don't care about these characters anymore. Oh, boy, we can do a whole week on this. Richard, go to the next email, please.
My next piece of your mail is from our buddy Frank,
Nick.
FJ Leone. Um, and he says, your advice to always take a book out of the bag is sound. We're talking about buying raw books. Make sure you look at them before you plop your money down. I have
Mhm.
looked at books through the bag and swore they were at least 7.0, but then taking them out of the bag, reality was more like 4.0. Absolutely. Especially when you're talking about Silver Age or Bronze Age books where they had things like value stamps or centerfolds, where people like to rip out and put on the wall. They're important to go through and make sure you got a 32-page book. Make sure the centerfold is there. Make sure that somebody hasn't cut out a value stamp, someone hasn't filled out some coupon. There's all kinds of things that they're kids, kids used to hold these books. They weren't white gloved their entire life. So you want to make sure that the book matches your expectations. If the seller didn't divulge there was something wrong with the book, that is a red flag. And you can either use it as a negotiating thing to get a lower price, or, you may want to pass on it depending on what you want. So take it out of the bag, make sure the pages are all there, check the staples to make sure the staples aren't rusted. All the things you would do if you're about to press a book, make sure that everything is to what the seller is giving you an estimation of its value.
Also, I don't think dealers tend to be devious a lot of the times. I don't think they're trying to rip people off. I think you see a book and it's only $5. You're like, whoa, this looks great. It's $5. You take it out of the bag, and bags are really good at hiding finger bends,
Right.
uh, corner bends, blunted things like that. So then you see, oh, that's why it's $5. And you could also take a look at stuff that's priced very nicely in your budget and see, oh, this is improvable. Okay, I can take this and I can make this a $20 book with a
Mhm.
press clean. So yeah, always take a book out of the bag. It's funny. Live sale Saturday. I was showing someone a book and they asked to see it, and I held it up to the camera and we were talking about it. And the guy that was interested in the book said, John, you said always take a book out of the bag before you buy it. Can you please take it out of the bag? Words came back to haunt me on a live sale.
Yeah, you want to check that back cover because you don't see the back cover when it's in a bag
Right.
of board, and it could be a dust shadow. It could be somebody's filled at the coupon on the back of the cover. It could be a variety of things. It's and just be courteous if someone is selling it to you. What I usually ask is, can you please remove this from the bag? Let them remove it. So if there's any issue of it coming out of the bag, it's on them and not on you. And
Yeah.
then hold it very carefully and flip through and make sure that everything is there.
Count pages.
Mhm.
My next piece of viewer mail is from our email at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com from Jackson. Hi, guys. I've been watching your YouTube for a while now. Thank you. You do a great job. It's relaxing and gives a much more measured, mature point of view to comic related issues that I also struggle with. Considered at times, which is not easy to find. Thanks. So I've heard you guys reference Northeast Ohio often, obviously. I grew up here. I was born in Cuyahoga Falls. I moved to Kent at the end of high school, then Cleveland in Little Italy, and now Ravenna due to the proximity to work. Something I've been struggling with is finding decent places to hunt for comics. It's my favorite part of the hobby, but all I can think of is to look for antique malls and stores, indoor flea markets, or swap meets, which are rare around here. I know you guys have referenced having some good places and ways you used to hunt around here. Would you please tell me how you went about it? And even name some specific places if you remember any. I would really, really appreciate it. Keep up the great work, Jackson. Jackson. I don't live there anymore. I haven't been there since, well, I've been visiting, but I haven't lived there since the year 1999. But I can't tell you what's still there, which I still go to every time I visit. Um, Jamie's Flea Market in
Mhm.
Amherst, Ohio is always a good place to go hunting. Richard mentioned Carol and John's comic shop. They have sometimes, do they still take over the storefront next door and fill it with dollar bins?
Yep, they do it for on a couple of times during the year, including on Free Comic Book Day.
North Coast Nostalgia, which is now North Coast Comics, they just changed their name. They have some great back issues, and you want to, I'm going to tell you, they're probably going to hate me for saying this on a YouTube. Wait for them to have a sale. They always have 50% off sale. So just if you can hold out and hope the book doesn't sell, just wait for them to have 50% off. It's where I got my Static number 45 for 50% off. What, Richard, you're still there? You hit them with some names.
You've hit all the good spots. Place that I've rated in the past. If you don't mind driving all the way to Elyria, Keith's Comics in Elyria has a decent back stock. It's well picked over, but he does refresh it. So
Beware of the look it up at the register
right,
technique at Keith's.
that happens. That happens in a lot of places.
Oh, we got it, Eric. Comics or Go.
Comics Are Go is if they were closer to me, they would be my LCS. They're out in
Sheffield.
Sheffield. That's it, Sheffield.
Mhm.
And they have a great store, great back catalog. You ask him, he'll pull out all of his books that he takes to shows, and you can peruse them. He's got a good price too, very fair. So definitely check out Comics Are Go if you don't mind driving all the way out to the west side.
Yeah, Jackson. Sorry, to your point about driving to the west side, I think you kind of have to get out of Cleveland because there are other big collectors out there that are constantly trawling the Cleveland stores and getting that stuff before you do. I won't call any names out, but they're YouTubers. So yeah, I just want to say you might have to expand your reach a little bit. Tell them about Amherst,
Amherst.
the garage sales.
Oh yeah, in Labor Day and Memorial Day, there are a number of just of sellers who will take their garage, convert them to comic displays, and they'll have racks and racks of comics, and they sell comics out of their garage. You got um,
It's a group of people that live close together, so you can hit them all at once and they coordinate. I wish we could do stuff like that here.
yeah, and actually, this year our friend Forrest joined the. It's kind of just like John says, it's a group of people who are comic book sellers or just comic book fans who decide they want to unload some of their books. And on that specific day, the Labor Day weekend and the Memorial Day weekend, you can drive around Amherst and go to different garages and see what's available. Great prices too. Chuck is one of the sellers. He has excellent prices and is very, very willing to work with you. He's also a great guy. So if you get an opportunity, you can go out there, talk to him, and see what he has for sale. I've bought a lot of books over the years. I used to be the first one, the first one there on the show. They'd open at 8 and I'd be there at 7:55 waiting for him to open the show. But yeah, it's a great time. I also have to call out um, Facebook. Facebook is a great place to come across people who are selling comics. To me, buying and selling locally is about building relationships, either the dealers that you see at the shows all the time, like Nerdbox. I have a great relationship with them. Jamie's Flea Market, they're at a lot of shows here locally. Got a great relationship with, strangely enough, his name is Jamie, but not the original Jamie. And a number of other shops around here. And it's that good relationship means you get good prices. You also get called out for things that they know that you may be interested in.
Mhm.
And it's just great to build a relationship with people. So many books I've come across in that method, and I've helped John come across books because people who had a rare Peanuts book happened.
Peanuts #1 came from Richard from Ohio.
Yeah,
Um, these tips, I know everybody that does not live in Northeast Ohio is probably skipping ahead. These tips are valid for wherever you live. It's, get yourself out there, try to discover some antique shops you haven't been to yet. You just gotta hit the road on a Saturday or a Sunday and just put a few hours to searching.
And it's hit or miss, it is kind of it's the thrill of the chase and the thrill of the hunt. You'll have days when you come up with nothing, and other days you come up with X-Men 94. So you just never know.
Why don't you get your last piece of viewer mail?
My last piece is from our buddy Jay Hoda.
Yo.
I always have books graded for display. That said, I think the real benefit to grading books is liquidity. But liquidity doesn't equal value. It's entirely possible that the price differential between graded and raw is so small that grading isn't financially sensible.
Especially now with the price increases.
Oh my goodness. I
Great.
don't understand how they can
Mm-mm.
support the price increases. I understand what you mean. Yeah, well, liquidity. If you're buying books to sell, the easiest way to sell the book is if it's graded. Graded means someone's looked at it, made sure that it's not restored or conserved or anything. And if it is labeled as such. Somebody's counted all the pages. Somebody's looked at the staples, all the things that you would normally do. And that book has been graded
Ostensibly.
ostensibly, right? Has been reviewed by a third party.
I'm saying that because the grading is so crappy right now. I don't trust them. CGC specifically.
Mhm.
That's why we stopped sending books in.
Yeah, yeah. And coming to an agreement on the condition of the book is an easiest way to come to an agreement on the value of that book and the price. So, if you're looking to sell and not keep the books forever, grading helps. Doesn't mean that is the only way of because now a lot of people buy raw books. I buy raw books anymore. If I'm looking for, I would love to find a Fantastic Four #6. I would probably buy a raw one over a graded one. Of course, I would have to be in person and look at it to do all the things we've talked about here for checking the book. But yeah, I'm much more interested in the raw one because of the price. Two, I like to read it before I
I
do
like
something else with
the
it. Yeah.
house ads, the letter page. I'm laughing while you're talking, not because of what you're saying, but because I just realized CGC is going to be a Cal Comic Con with us. So, are you ready to throw down if they come over to our booth?
Let's do it. Let's do it. I do have a book or two that I might submit because I got $150 worth of credit that I refuse to let go.
You should do it. You don't have to pay for shipping, and
Yeah.
yeah. Let them damage it. All right, my last piece of your mail is in reference to last week when we were talking about all the Latino Latinx characters and the White Tiger specifically, and we were going through them. And I read this comment and I laughed so hard because it's so obvious. It's from Raul Mendieta.
Mhm.
Guys, you completely ignored Miles Morales. He is of Puerto Rican origins.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is, and proud of it. I don't know why it didn't come. It didn't come to mind.
As much as we talk about Miles Morales on this show,
Mhm. Yeah,
we both just
yeah, yeah. Miles is great. Miles. They're still screwing around with this third movie. I am so upset about that.
yeah. But just the fact that we completely, it would be like someone saying to me, name all the patriotic superheroes. Well, there's the Shield, there's General Glory, and forgetting about Captain America.
Right,
So
right.
thank you, Raul, for
Yeah,
calling us out on that.
definitely, definitely.
Talking about hunting, the thrill of the hunt, smaller cities, and how you can find some buried treasure there. How about Tennessee? If you are in Tennessee, you want to go to the Jackson Comic Expo March 1st at the Carl Perkins Civic Center right there in Jackson, Tennessee. You've got some guests, including Aaron Bartling, who draws for Marvel and DC. You've got Jay Leiston, also for Marvel and DC. He drew the Death of Wolverine run. And Richard, you can meet Rita Repulsa from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Actress Carla Perez is going to be there. The vendors have include many comic dealers, anime, tabletop games, Pokemon, all things pop culture and collectibles. And they will be having an original Swamp Thing art print limited to just 75 copies by Aaron Bartling, available only at the show in person. Jackson, Tennessee. That's where it is. It's the Jackson Comic Expo. See this QR code right here? Why don't you clicky on that and make with the tickets and get down there if you are in Tennessee. Richard, I wish we can go to that one.
I do too. It's only so much time in the year.
I want to meet Rita Repulsa. I really do. She's kind of like, talk about icons. All right. I'm not going to do a big preamble to this because I want to get right to it. It is time to go back 40 years to 1985 for the old fart rule. I saw this and I thought this is the obvious pick for the old fart rule 1985 for us, Richard. It is Miracleman #1. Can you believe this book is 40 years old this year?
I can't believe that I have memories that are 40 years old. That's, oh my goodness.
Insane, right?
Yeah.
What can we say about Miracleman? We talk about it all the time on this show. It's one of the books that put not only Alan Moore on the map, but Alan Davis. People forget Alan Davis drew this. It was originally published in Warrior magazine in the UK. This was the American debut, which reprinted those stories. And then after those stories ran out, Eclipse and Alan Moore started producing new stories along with Steve Bissett, I believe, or John Toddleben, maybe both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Miracleman #1, not a scarce book by any means. Richard, do you remember me FaceTiming you from the convention floor last year where a dealer had an entire long box full of fresh, uncirculated copies of Miracleman #1 he was selling for $20 each?
Yeah. It is not a rare book. But there are rare instances of the book. The first 1,000 copies of the book have a print imperfection on the cover. If you look very carefully, you can see it kind of looks like a wrinkle on the cover, and that helps you identify the first 1,000. You also have the, I'm sorry, you say something?
Nope, just burped.
Okay. There is also the of that first 1,000, 600 of them were sold at the, I forget what convention it was. Was it San Diego?
There's a San Diego exclusive that was signed by Alan Moore.
Right.
And then there was, I believe, a UK. The other one was a UK exclusive.
There is a UK version of this book. It has a different back, which is much more rare. But there is a gold edition, which is basically a book that was signed by Alan Moore and numbered. There was limited to 400, and then there is a blue edition, which is another 600 books, which was signed by Alan Moore but not numbered.
Right.
And those have a higher rarity because you got Alan Moore's signature on if you open up the book. He did not sign it on the cover, thank goodness. He signed it on the page with the indicia. So you open up the book and you'll see Alan's signature, and on the gold you'll see X of 400. I have one of the golds. It's one of my prize books. Get it graded by CGC. They don't call it out at all.
They'll get the label wrong, so you can rely on them for that as well.
Yes, they've gotten the label wrong on a couple of different Miracleman #1s that I have. But this is an important book to me. I grew up reading this series. I grew up with Toddleben's art on this series and also Swamp Thing. I think he is one of the scariest artists. The way that he draws characters is amazing.
Miracleman 15, man. Well, as we're saying, not a scarce book, issue 1. The 90-day average for a CGC 9.8 is a whopping $102. Now, after Alan Moore left the title with issue 16, I believe.
Yes.
Neil Gaiman came on to write it. Even after Marvel acquired it, he wrote a new story. So is this it for Miracleman? Is this the end of the road? Alan Moore wants nothing to do with it. Neil Gaiman is in exile.
That's horrible. I mean, this character, the fact that it's, we're losing things like the access to this character because of the misdeeds of the creator. This seems unfair, and for not to me, because I've read the book and I've
Well,
enjoyed.
Neil's not well, you're talking about what creator in terms of continuing it.
Right, right. Well, yeah, right. I mean, when you think Miracle Man, you think, at least I think, of Alan Moore in this storyline, but a lot of people will think of Gaiman's and his run.
By the way, everybody, say hi to Tinkerballs there.
Yes, he was biting my ankle because he wanted to be seen. So here he is. He's
Camera,
the office.
camera hog. Miracle Man, have you read it? What do you think? Hit us in the comments. We want to hear from you as we move to our underrated books of the week. Richard, I have never heard of this one.
This is a recommendation by James in the chat that we had,
Wow.
and a number of other people who seconded his recommendation. Thanks, James. I appreciate it. This is a new book. It's by a publisher called CEX. It's hard to find. The story is kind of like Strange Academy meets Hunger Games. You start off with 72 students, and only 7 students at the end of the 7 years will actually graduate, actually survive the experience. They're all here in the school called Scholomance, which any of the WoW players out there will think of Scholomance. It's basically a school for dark magic. And the book chronicles the 7 years of this particular class of students. The first 4 issues cover year 1, and I'm assuming the next 4 are going to cover year 2, and they'll continue that way. It's just tough to get. I decided, okay, well, thanks to the recommendations, I'm going to read. First of all, I was reading Redcoat because of the recommendation. And so I've said, okay, I'm going to read this book. And my LCS did not have any copies of it. They've heard of it, but they did not have any copies available. So I went to the website. Okay, no biting. You go down.
out with you.
So I went to their website. You can buy digital copies of some of the books, which is the frustrating part. There's a compendium coming out, which is a collection of the first 4 issues. It's called 7 Years in Darkness Progress Report. It is not available digitally. I don't know if over time it's going to become available or not. I ended up going to eBay, finding a copy for $15,
Wow.
so I could get a copy of it, because I enjoyed the first 2 issues. I read the first 2 issues digitally. I could not find issue number 3. I went to Carolyn Johns, my LCS, could not find it, and they said they probably wouldn't be available again until the compendium came out later in the year. It's a good story. It's a very dark story, considering this takes place to kids. I mean, these are high school kids, and the very second issue, one of the high school kids decides he doesn't want to go to the school, and it doesn't turn out well for him.
Oh boy.
Or her, I believe it was a her. So, but the problem also is the CEX is a publisher I had never heard of before. They have a website, a web presence. I don't know what their distribution is in terms of number of copies sold, but again, this is a tough book to come across, and I think it's very, very well received. So I'm hoping they're seeing some success and will expand the offering for this storyline.
I'm going to have to do a little digging here locally, see if I can scare up a copy, because scare. Like all right, I'm going to take you way back, 1981. You're at your local mall. You're walking into Walden Books. You're going to the sci-fi section, because you're a nerd.
Yeah.
Or actually, I think this might have been racked with the magazines. Now that I think about it, you've got your Starlog magazine. You've got your comic scene next to it, and next to those is this: the Starlog Photo Guidebook TV Episode Guides, Volume 1, Science Fiction, Adventure, and Superheroes. It's $6.95. What? It's like a trade paperback. It's glossy. It's beautiful black and white photos. I remember saving up weeks of my paper route money to afford to buy this. It featured little episode recaps for various sci-fi and superhero TV shows, including Wonder Woman, Battlestar Galactica, Logan's Run, Lost in Space, Galactica 1980, The Man from Atlantis, the Star Trek animated series, The Prisoner. But I was all about the Doctor Who episode guides because I just started watching Doctor Who. Tom Baker, forever. By the way, he turned 90 last week.
Yeah. Wow.
And he celebrated the 50th anniversary of his first episode last month.
Still has a full head of hair. It's white, but
crazy, and still has all his marbles. I want to run into that crazy mofo at his pub one day before he goes. Just started watching Doctor Who on PBS, on my local PBS station. And so this was a godsend because I could go through and read all the descriptions and be like, okay, they just showed the Ark in space. What's going to be next? The Sontaran experiment. Okay, so I'll make sure I watch those 2 episodes. And I could follow along and I could get teasers and spoilers for what was coming up. And then they had all the Lost in Space episodes, which I knew by heart anyway. But then there was the stuff that I didn't know, like Logan's Run. I was obsessed with Logan's Run when I was a kid, but I wasn't allowed to watch it because it was on at 10 o'clock at night. So now I can at least read what happened to Logan and Jessica. Man from Atlantis, they just moved it around so much I could never catch every episode. So now I knew what I missed. But I was really fascinated with one TV series they featured in this that I'd never heard of called The Star Lost. Have you ever heard of The Star Lost, Richard?
I have. I'm trying to rack my brain for memories of it, but I have heard of it.
Created by Harlan Ellison. It was a Canadian production, so it was filmed in Canada. It starred one of the dudes from 2001. I can't remember his name, but it was about basically the Amish in space. These Amish-looking people who are farmers are living their life, and all of a sudden they discover by accident that they're actually on a giant spaceship with all these separate pods that never communicate with each other. And Earth blew up years ago, and they've been living on this spaceship for generations, so long under an artificial sun and everything that they've forgotten that they're on a spaceship. Now, the only reason this matters is because they discover it's hurtling towards a sun. So they have to bring everyone together and try to find a solution to this thing. Now, Harlan Ellison creates this. It becomes a mess because they use chroma key for all the special effects. It looks really cheap. It's syndicated. It only lasts 14 episodes. I was obsessed. I was like, I must see this show one day. But of course, in those days, who's going to run that show as repeats? It was a failed syndicated show that was cheap and only 14 episodes. Enter YouTube. You can now watch every episode of The Star Lost.
That is awesome. Have you rewatched them all?
I have, and they're horrible. I love it. It's so campy and cheesy. There's one where there's giant bees. So, how do you think they present the giant bees as a special effect? What do you think they did?
I have no idea.
They took the actors in front of a green screen and put giant bee footage on it.
God.
And that's literally, go watch The Star Lost. You will be disappointed. It's great. But do you remember these episode guides?
I do. This predates the internet. Okay. So we didn't have any central repository for information that we could refer to at the drop of a hat. If you didn't have one of these guides, you were relying on trying to scrape information out of TV guides, which was never very easy or very
on microfiche at your library.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, you had no one else was compiling this kind of information and making it available in a format that nerds would appreciate. Yeah, I do remember this. I do remember poring over every single page and reading every single even the things I didn't. I was not a huge Battlestar Galactica fan, but I read through all the stuff for Battlestar Galactica because it was all there and it was compelling. We don't have something like this anymore. We would have a wiki page, or we would have, some kind of online piece of information. This was permanent. This you held it in your hand and you turned the pages and you dog-eared the pages that you were interested in, and it was something that you had as opposed to something you had access to.
Speaking of permanent, I still have my original copy in the garage in my trunk with all my childhood photos and report cards and everything. It's a mess. I didn't want to bring it on. I'll have to try to dig it out. Maybe I'll bring it on the live show this weekend. Or
Harold Jones. Harold Jones, I loaned my whole collection of Starlogs to, including this issue, and I never saw it again. I can still remember it. This was 40 years ago. I loaned him this, and I'm still angry that he has not given it back to me.
Is he still local? Is he alive? Do you find him on Facebook?
He still lives in the Cleveland area, as far as I know, and he's on Facebook. And I am tempted to give him hell over it, but yeah, I loaned it to him, and I never ever I got them. They are all in individual manila envelopes, so to protect them.
Uh,
Yeah, all
Harold
gone.
Jones, you have been warned. You are on. You are warned. All right, everybody, that wraps it up for the Monday episode. Members, we will catch you on Wednesday and Thursday. Everyone else, we'll see you in a week.
Yep, everybody, stay safe.